Yeah, I'm hoping the mic works today. So this is example number 4 from our skills questions. Again, it looks like we things didn't photocopy very well, or didn't copy over to this format very well. We really have another point at -4 and -8. So -4 and -8 is a point that's way down here somewhere. So we were supposed to, first of all, maybe draw the line through those points, just to kind of give us a perspective in regards to what is it that we're working with. So first and most important skill in this chapter is, can you find slope? And slope for some of us can be rise over run. So we want to talk about the rise, and we want to talk about the run. And you can use words, up and right, or we can do the calculations with the formula. So if this is my point, up and right, I know I'm going up 12, and I'm going to the right 3. So up 12 and right 3. So my slope then is positive 12 over positive 3. Are these numbers right? Up 12, right 3. My slope then looks like it's going to be 4. So we can do slope with rise over run. The other way to do slope is to use the formula. Subtract your y values for your rise. Subtract your x values for your run. So if you look at your y values, and this is -1, positive 4. If I look at my y values and I subtract them, I have -8 minus 4, and I have -4 minus -1, or else you have them completely opposite. When I do the math then, I have -12, and -4 plus 1 is -3. Two negative numbers dividing each other, and this is where a lot of us kind of get stuck. We think this means a negative answer, but -12 divided by -3 is still positive 4. So it doesn't matter which way you're doing the question. If you're doing rise over run, or if you're doing the formula, we know the slope on this question is going to be 4. And there's just lots of work that we can show. Okay, but just don't write down the number 4. Show your rise over run. Show your formula. The next thing we want to look at now is what makes things perpendicular. So let's just kind of scroll down a little bit, and let's do B. And again, guys, if you're gonna go back and you're gonna play this, to review your notes, don't be afraid to push pause, back things up, rewind things, right? Because we're going through pretty quick here. What you need to remember about perpendicular slopes, there's 2 things about them. They have opposite signs. So that means one of the slopes is positive, one of the slopes is negative, so we have opposite signs. And the other thing is that they're reciprocals. Okay, so when we go to draw our sketch, our given slope we said is 4, which means the perpendicular slope needs to be the opposite sign. So my perpendicular slope has to be negative, and I also have to take the reciprocal of 4. So let's go negative, and reciprocal of 4 is 1/4. So that's the slope I want to work with. So for the rest of this question, we're going to work with a slope of -1/4. Next thing we want to do is step C. So we're going to actually draw a graph again, but this drawing the graph is really based on your understanding of slopes. So after we plot something and we think about a slope that is -1/4, that means we're going to go down 1 and we're going to go right 4, or we're going to go up 1 and we're going to go left 4. Because you have a negative slope, one of your directions has to be a negative direction. So that's why down and right work together, or up and left work together. So let's plot our point at negative 8, positive 4. So negative 8 and positive 4 puts us way up here. And does that have a name? It has a name P. So negative 8, positive 4, that's our point. So it's going to be tough for us to go up 1 and left because we don't have space. So let's make sure we go down 1 and then right 4. And there's another dot for our line. Down 1 and right 4. And there's a point. Down 1 and right 4. And then, you know what, my graph, again, your graph goes farther, our graph didn't copy very well. But whenever you're going to draw a line, make sure you have more than 2 points, because if you only put 2 points and one of them's wrong, your line is wrong. At least if you put 3 points or 4 points and you go to draw a line through these, and it doesn't hit all the points, that tells us we've done something wrong. So I'm looking at my line right now. I'm going to fix that a little bit. And you know what, I hit all my points. So I'm pretty happy that what I drew, what I plotted, my rise over my run, is correct. When you do graphs, sometimes the way the graphs print, they're not square, like the one left and one right isn't the same size as one up and one down. So what you get on your graph sometimes, even though they're perpendicular, they may not look perpendicular. These ones look pretty good. These ones look like they actually meet at 90 degrees. So that's a good sign. And again, the idea is that when you have one graph is really steep, the other graph has to be a little bit flatter to make them 90 degrees. So we've done A, the most important thing, you can find slope. We've done B, that's just a knowledge thing, what makes things perpendicular. And C now, again, a real important skill is that you know how to apply a slope and draw a line. For D, every time you find an equation, you need to know there's 3 things that you have to have. We need to have a point, and in this case we said use negative 8 and positive 4. We need to know that you have to have a point that is just x and y, and we need to know that you always have to have a slope, and we're going to use the slope of negative 1/4 because we're supposed to find the equation of the line that's going through P, not the one that was given to us, the equation that has slope of negative 1/4 and through these points. You have used the slope formula lots of times, so write it down because this is kind of your guide. And now we're going to put all our information into our formula. Negative 1/4 is the slope. Subtract the y values. So it's the y minus 4. Subtract the x values. Again, when you minus a negative, when you subtract a negative, it becomes x plus 8. There's an equation. That's a great answer. That's not the answer that you were told to find in D. You were told to find the answer in general form. So now we just have to use our algebra skills to write this into general form. So cross multiplying. Show your cross multiplying. Show that you can multiply everything in the first set of brackets by negative 1. So negative times x and negative times 8. Everything in the second set of brackets is going to be times by 4. So it's 4y and it's 16. Okay, so slope is key, cross multiplying is key, multiplying skills are key. The next thing you have to remember is I want my AX to be positive. My X's need to be positive. So look at your question. The X's are negative right now. So take the X's from the left side and somehow get them to the right side. So just add X to both sides. And if you want, at the same time, because we want one side to be 0, we can also add 8, but we'll do it in 2 steps. But let's add 8 first of all, or sorry, add x. And now the negative 8 is all by itself. Alphabetical order, put the x before the y's. And I have x plus 4y minus 16. And then to make it equal 0, one more step. Add 8 to both sides. And we have 0 equals x plus 4y minus 8. That's your answer in general form. So again, general form means you keep the x's positive. The y's and the other numbers, they can be positive or negative. They just happen to change signs based on x being the boss. Next step, next question. If we were to scroll back up, so we will do that. We'll scroll back up and we'll see the next step is about finding intercepts. So finding intercepts is a real important thing mathematically. I want to find the intercepts of that graph. Now, not always will you be given the information like we showed you in this question. It's saying what happens when x equals 0, what happens when y equals 0. We want to find the points. And again, it's like mapping diagrams. If I give you the first number, how do you find the second number? If I give you the second number, how do you find the first number? The key thing with x being 0 is there's no left and there's no right. So you're right on the y-axis. So our idea right now then is to take this information, x equals 0, and you substitute in for the x value in your equation. So instead of writing x, I write 0. I have 4y and I have minus 8 equals 0. So now this becomes a question where you just solve for the y value. That's really what you want to do. You're going to solve for y, which means get y by itself. So 4y minus 8 equals 0. These are the two-step equations that we've practiced with a little bit this year. I know you did some of these last year as well. I suggest that you keep the variable, in this case the y variable, keep them positive. So now you have 4y equals 8. And then you can either think about 4 times what equals 8, or you can show you're going to divide by 4. But 8 divided by 4 is 2. So what we want to know then, or what you should know, is that if 0 is the x value, 2 is the y value, so 0 and 2 is going to be a point on your graph. So if you go back and check the work we did, 0 and 2 is there. The next thing to look at is what happens if you make your y value 0. Making your y value 0 is the same thing as making an x value 0. We're just going to substitute something into the equation, just the other part of the equation. This is saying again, where are you when you have no height? So 4 times 0 means you have no height. Where are you on the other line? If you simplify your expression, this is even easier than the first one because now it's just x minus 8 equals 0, which means add 8 to both sides, and you get x equals 8. So the point this time is 8 with 0. If you have no height, you're going 8 to the right. So if you extended your graph far enough with your points, 8 and 0 is a point on your graph. So key is finding slope, plotting a point with slopes, finding equations with slopes, finding intercepts. Okay, all this done with algebra instead of just kind of reading the graph. And then the last thing is, can you take an equation and can you change forms with it? So again, we're going to show you 2 ways to do the question. If you have x plus 4y minus 8 equals 0, you want to write this so it looks like y equals mx plus b. You want to prove that you have the algebra skills to change forms. So if we do the algebraic method, y becomes the boss. So I want to keep my 4y positive, which means move x to the other side and move 8 to the other side. So let's subtract the x and let's add the 8. So when I do that, I have minus 4x and I have plus 8. So when you take things from the left side to the right side, really what happens is they just change signs. And they're changing signs because you're doing opposites. Let's fix that. You're right, there is no 4 on the x. It should just be minus x and plus 8. Is that better? Thanks. Let's divide by 4. Everybody gets to divide by 4. So then I have just y equals. Again, the number in front of x, there's a 1 there. So it's negative 1/4 x. And 8 divided by 4 is 2. So those are the steps you can go through for algebraically writing your equation in the slope y-intercept format. We could have done this question without doing all the algebra though, because in our work on this question, at the very start, we said our slope is negative 1/4. And right above us, we talked about a y-intercept. So if you look at this value, the y-intercept, that means our b value is 2. And then if we put that information into our equation, we get y equals negative 1/4 x plus 2. So whether you do it because you know the slope and you know the y-intercept and write an equation, or whether you do it with all the algebra, because it's the same line, the answer has to be the same.